So much, Bobby, for all that you do for us. It's been a delight to work with you, and I'm really excited that Maggie is turning over a new chapter. I'm going to read you an abridged version of the essay that appears in this issue, and it is a tribute to my wonderful great-grandmother, who I was so lucky to have in my life until I was 24. We shared her birthday, so you can imagine we were pretty close, and she lived to be 96, and I think you'll love her as much as I did by the end of this. The mortician must have removed the chin hair she had once asked me to pluck. I leaned over the casket and I couldn't help noticing how smooth Nana's chin was. Being in her 90s, she had long lost the estrogen she needed to keep from growing sprigs of wiry white hair on her jutting granny jaw. Nana's perfectly varnished chin fit well with the 10 years of wrinkles the mortician buffed out. She didn't even smell like Necco wafers or Mounds bars anymore. Her cropped hair was tamed in a way that would have been impossible in life. I wasn't far from convincing myself that it wasn't really my great-grandmother in that casket. She wasn't really gone. Of course, Nana never told anyone that I was the one who wielded the tweezers. She didn't want anyone to know that she had a beard, and I didn't want anyone to know that I plucked that beard. We had an agreement. The plucking started harmlessly enough. One afternoon, I walked across the street to her house, saw her through the glass of the burglar bar-clad door. She was shaking her fist at the TV again. The glass rattled against the bars when I knocked. "Hey, Perts," she said, Perts being the derivative of pretty in the country dialect she spoke. "I've got a hair on my chin, thick as barbed wire, and I can't see to get it off." "Pluck it for me, will you, Perts?" "Do I have to? I used to wipe your ass when you were a baby. She sat back down in her recliner to see what ruling Judge Maybelline of divorce court was going to lay down while I retrieved the tweezers. "Well, don't just stand there. Get this damn thing off my chin." She didn't intend to stop watching her shows over a row of chin hair. She intended for me to pluck on a commercial break. The hair was stark white and it had a bulb-like root, and it was long and bent stiffly against my finger. I'd want that thing off my chin too. "All right, Nana," I said. "I'll pluck your chin hairs, but you better not tell anybody about it. I wouldn't do this for just anybody." She took our secret to the grave. We spent many a good days in front of the TV with me plucking her chin hairs. Her television was the old Zenith model, the kind with the speaker on the side and facing the viewer, and the screen that curved outward like it was pregnant with the little moving people inside. And most often, that old Zenith was pregnant with Jerry Springer. The first episode of Jerry Springer aired in 1990, the year I was born. With a deadbeat dad and a mom just trying to make ends meet, I spent more time with Nana than anyone else in the family. She practically raised me. And she raised me on a healthy diet of Jerry Springer and profanity. With Nana, TV was never just a spectator sport. What the FCC bleeped out, Nana shouted at full volume. She made me fluent in a slew of curses, the kind that one normally learns as a rite of passage in your high school friend's smoky basements. But don't misunderstand me. Nana wasn't some dirty old white trash lady slinging curses. She loved Jerry Springer for the same reasons that she loved NASCAR, going to the bowling alley, the American flag in her curio cabinet, and taking pictures of dead people in their caskets. She loved the stories. She loved the act of remembering. She used to tell this tall tale about her family that lived in the wilderness of Winston County, Alabama, in a place so rural that they didn't get electricity until the 1970s. Back in the days of Prohibition, Uncle Jack set up a still in that old forest where he made the best moonshine in 3 counties. Word spread that his moonshine was the stuff of dreams, and before long, he got some cousins to make some midnight deliveries on horseback. Demand was high and business was good. But one night, those dirty revenuers showed up at the still. Give us the moonshine recipe, Jack, and we won't lock you up. Think real hard. But Uncle Jack was having none of it. He jumped on his horse and sped off before they knew what was coming. The revenuers followed and shot Uncle Jack's horse in the leg. Jack's horse bucked, threw him to the ground, and trampled him. They say there was a hoof print like a bowl carved out of his chest when he died. Now Jack's mother, the widow before, got word that her son was dead and the still burned to the ground in the ruckus. She bided her time, and then she hatched a plan of revenge. So one day, she called up the sheriff saying she needed some help. When he arrived, the widow before said, "I've got possums rooting around in my vegetable garden, eating up my crops, and I want you to shoot them dead." She was so old that no one knew her age, but everyone assumed she was damn near 100. As the sheriff set up watch on the back porch, waiting on the possum to turn up, the widow before joined him outside, and they talked like old friends, until she said, "You know, I ain't got a dipper for my soup. You wouldn't believe how hard it is getting soup into a bowl without a dipper. It'd sure be nice to have a big dipper." Then wham! She took a cast iron skillet to the back of his head, killing him instantly. She might have looked like a little old lady, but a life of hard labor will toughen you up good. She buried him in that vegetable garden, right where the possums were supposedly rooting around. Years later, after the widow before's death, they found a skull in her soup pot. She had dug up the sheriff and turned his skull into a dipper, clean as a whistle. NASCAR was born out of the need to make fast cars to outrun revenuers, and I like to think that every time Nana cheered Rusty Wallace to the finish, she was cheering for Uncle Jack in her way too. Now, Nana would only ever tell you a story when it suited her. If you asked for a story, you'd never get one. Curled up in her guest bedroom, up too late past my bedtime and too old for bedtime stories, I'd say, "Nana, will you tell me a story?" "Oh, you know I ain't got no stories, baby." Then she'd tuck me in and turn on the AM radio station, the Cajun station, and I'd fall asleep to the sound of men and accordions singing in French and the plastic clack of the digital flip clock as the minutes ticked by. The last two lines of my favorite Cajun song translate to, "The years may go by, but I'll never forget you." "You know I ain't got no stories," she would say. But Nana had all the stories, 96 years of them. And the other day, I found a wiry hair on my own chin. Maybe I've got stories too.